A new report out there from Albert Breer outlines how much Caleb Williams has bought into Ben Johnson. A lot of good, juicy information in there. I'm going to read and react here on today's show. But before we get there, we are in the middle of a May subscriber battle. Got to say, Packers Report taking us to the woodshed this month. Now, part of that is there being a new channel. They got their cute 6,000 subs, trying to grow that thing up. My guy Joey Peterson doing a great job over there, even though it's always FGB. But can we close the gap? I would love to close the gap in new subscribers this month here on Chicago Bears Now. So if you want daily and free Bears content, hit that subscribe button. I'm Harrison Graham. Let's get into this report from Albert Breer as he reports that Caleb Williams has locked in, has bought in to what Ben Johnson has been selling, and that he's also taken to criticism well also, which I think is a very good positive. So a lot of quotes in here that I'm going to react to, so stick with us here as we make our way through this report from Albert Breer. He first says, from day one, Williams' buy-in on Ben Johnson has been high. The 23-year-old was there alongside DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Cole Kmet as well, for the introductory press conference, which is a small but notable thing for a guy to do coming off his rookie year. That, in turn, gave the Bears their first chance, gave the two their first chance to sit down and talk face-to-face, and it showed that Williams had an understanding of the responsibility that would come with his place as the Bears franchise quarterback, which would be Johnson's starting point anyway. And I remember thinking this at the time. We talked about it, and just re-emphasizing it here is that him being there was important. Now, I'm not going to act like he had to go way out of his way to go to Ben Johnson's press conference, whether he was in town, out of town, simple flight to Chicago. I'm not going to give him too much credit, but I do think it was important that he and DJ and a couple of these guys were there. Hey, it's our new head coach. First impressions are critical. They're important. Like Albert said, that did allow them to talk in person one-on-one a little bit during that time as well, when you typically don't get a lot of coach and player interaction that time of the year, just based on how the CBA rules work. So I do think that was important. Okay, more from Breer. Williams was around the building a lot from that point forward, which gave Johnson and offensive coordinator Declan Doyle and quarterbacks coach JT Barrett a shot to organically build their relationship. That facilitated some hard truths to be doled out at the start of the offseason program in April. There were two areas where the coaches wanted improvement from Williams, both related to how he carried himself as the quarterback based on the 2024 season. One was body language. The other was pre-snap procedure. Both of these are completely fair. I don't think Caleb Williams' body language was consistently bad or anything like that, but certainly a couple of times, and we'll further outline this, how maybe he's a little slow to get up after taking one of his 68 sacks, or maybe he was, sulking a little bit on the sideline. It was a tough, long year, but you got to be a tone setter as the quarterback, so I don't think it's out of bounds at all for them to point that out. And then number two, how many pre-snap penalties did the Bears have last year? I'm not saying that's all on the quarterback. I think there's a lot that goes into that. The offense was just broken as a whole, but the details are very important, so I think those are two things that when you review the film and just last season that are fair to point out. Albert Breer, on the former, talking about the body language, while the coaches understood the beating he took, they showed film to emphasize how he'd been slow to pull himself up off the ground. It was a long year. People got fired in season in adverse circumstances. The staff explained having a quarterback who was rolling with the punches would go a long way. Now, I do want to respond to that last point. I do think for the most part he rolled with the punches. He played all 17 games. He said all the right things to the media. I think that Caleb Williams, considering all the chaos around him and around this team last year, did a pretty good job. Now, was it perfect? Were there a few moments of, yeah, that doesn't look great? This was the one that really stood out. This was after he got absolutely clobbered, I think, in Minnesota when Karan Amagaji missed his block. And no one's saying you can't grimace, or it may not take, or at times it's going to take a little longer to get up. But still, pictures, tell a story, right? It's a social media world. It goes viral, all that stuff. You see all these as we cycle through. There were a few moments where, it wasn't great, right? A guy that's been criticized for this over the years is like Kyler Murray in Arizona, right? Good player. He's been solid for the Cardinals, but at times his body language hasn't been great. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Like I said, he was a rookie taking a beating, but I do think it's important, like new staff, let's set the bar high. Let's not let the details slip. So whether it's with the body language or with, hey, on this play, the pre-snap motion coming from left to right, you thought it was right to left. Like those are things that just can't happen. So I think that part of it is more important than this part of it. But I do think in general, that kind of reiterates what we've been hearing is like this staff is very harped in on the details and every facet of what they're doing, which fires me up because you start skipping steps, that's how you find yourself in trouble. All right, speaking of Caleb Williams, we got jerseys available, just $100. This one right now, $100, which is a great deal for Nike NFL jerseys. Chatsports.com/Caleb Jersey. That is the link to go to. That link is in the description and comments of this video. Click and shop today. Get yourself a QB1 jersey, Caleb Williams. Chatsports.com/Caleb Jersey. Okay, more from Breer here. On the ladder, talking about the pre-snap stuff, there was a smattering of small things. Like on the first play of one game, he turned to his left. This is what I was referring to. Thinking the motion was coming when it was actually coming from the right. That needed to be cleaned up. Again, nothing egregious with all of this stuff. The pre-snap stuff is a bigger concern than the body language stuff, but the QB sets the tone. Like, he is where people gravitate toward, whether it's good or bad. So, I don't think any of this is like earth-shattering, disastrous, or anything like that, but I think it's more of just like, hey, new staff coming in, let's set a standard, right? And it's pretty clear that's what they've done. All the reporting suggests that. Everything we hear from players, people around the team, guys like Albert Breer reporting, like they're not skipping steps, which is very, very exciting. Okay, more here. To Williams' credit, he welcomed every piece of criticism in an effort to get better. Progress thus far has been steady, and Williams is working at it. The Bears added Case Keenum to the quarterback room. Was indeed intentional, and Williams has taken advantage of it. He's using Keenum almost as another coach after hours to work around the CBA mandated limits on what coaches can actually do with the players at this point in the calendar. On the field, Williams has been good for at least one, quote, did he really do that? Throw every single day, which Ben Johnson kind of said on Cowherd when Cowherd asked him, is there anything that shows you, oh, this is why the number one pick? And he said numerous examples. So I think that's what he was referring to. And look, I'm buying my Caleb Williams stock. Like, bought it pre-draft last year, didn't sell any last year. I'm pouring more in. Bitcoin. I'm betting long term this is going to take off. Now, there's no guarantee, but what do we know about Caleb Williams? We know he's immensely talented. We know he has a big arm. We know he's mobile. We know I think he's pretty mentally tough, and I think people question that going into the draft. The beating he took last year, he did not fold, in my opinion. I thought he held himself steady both on and off the field for the most part. So I think getting through last year and dealing with the not so great circumstances, even if it wasn't perfect, I think showed a lot of character, football character specifically. And now it's about growing, right? Maturation, study habits, being that tone setter as a second-year player in this league and a quarterback of this franchise that's looking to get back to being a year in and year out contender. So I feel good about where things sit. We're going to overreact, underreact, whatever to what's happening at OTAs. It's a process. We'll see what the reporting from OTAs is this week. I think reporters will be there tomorrow, so we'll be sure to pass that along to you. But if last year was the baseline, like if that's as bad as it's ever going to get, then I feel pretty good. The question is how high can it go? How good can this player be? And I don't think there is a ceiling on this player. It just comes down to him, his work ethic, Ben Johnson, his teammates, all these guys meshing and coming together to see just how good Caleb in this offense can be. Are you buying or selling your Caleb Williams stock? Type B for buy or S for sell. I'll tell you who's buying it, and that's the Bears. That's Ryan Poles, right? with what they've done this offseason, the investment has been there. I know we've all gotten distracted by this ESPN report. He didn't want to come here. Well, regardless of what was true 18 months ago, the Bears operated this offseason like a team that believes and wants to build around Caleb Williams. They get the best offensive coach available. They rebuild the offensive line and give extensions to Joe Thuney and Jonah Jackson. They draft Luther Burden. They draft Colston Loveland. Like, the only thing you could possibly say is, well, you would have liked to get a running back earlier. Well, then you probably don't get Luther Burden, so it's like that's kind of a wash, right? Like, it's hard to literally do everything, and they still might get a running back, by the way. And they did get Kyle Monungai, so we'll see what he can do. And it seems like Caleb is paying off that investment with the work ethic so far. Doesn't mean it's going to turn into anything on Sundays, but we've been hearing about the after-hours work that he's been putting in. And Albert Breer is reporting that since day one, he's fully been bought in. He's been putting in that work, and he's using Case Keenum as a resource. I think the Case Keenum signing, I said it at the time, and I'll say it here, if this team has a good year and if Caleb Williams takes a big step, I think that signing is going to be an underappreciated part of it. I really, really do, because having that veteran who's been through it all, seen it all, has a good head on his shoulders, can pass wisdom to a young player like Caleb Williams with a lot of attention on him, I just think you can't measure that value. I really, really don't think you can. So that is going to be very, very critical for his development. All right, guys, there you go. My reaction to Albert Breer's reporting on Caleb Williams and the Bears. I think we'll hear from what's happening at OTAs tomorrow, so stay tuned for that, as we will have that all covered, plus more Bears content, so be sure to subscribe. Let's take down the Packers report. Bear down.